Good afternoon and welcome to the December 18th, 2012 meeting of the Glendale Housing Authority. May we have the roll call, please?
Authority members Friedman.
Here.
Manukian.
Here.
Mincy.
Here.
Parazian.
Here.
Quintero.
Here.
Weaver.
Here.
Chair Najarian.
Here. May we have your report?
The agenda for the December 18, 2012 regular meeting of the Glendale Housing Authority was posted on Thursday, December 13, 2012 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Thank you. The next item.
Approval of minutes.
I will make a motion to approve them. They're we have several here. We have the Joint Council and Housing Authority of November 13th. We have the same thing on December 11th. We have a Housing Authority meeting on December 11th. And fortunately, we were all here, so I move it.
I'll second.
Is there a second? Thank you. And if there are no objections or corrections, the minutes will be approved as submitted. Next item, please.
At 5 is oral communications. Discussion is limited to items not a part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Members of the Housing Authority may question or respond to the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. The matter may be referred to the staff through the Executive Director for investigation and report. We had no cards submitted.
And I have no cards up here, so I will close oral communications. The next item, please.
At 6A is Director of Community Services and Parks regarding status update on the Youth Strategy Report. And at 6A1 is motion to note and file report.
Mr. Ochoa.
Yes, sir. In July, you had actually requested that an update be brought forward regarding this study that was completed some years ago. With apologies, it did take us a little while through the reorganization to get to a point where we had the capacity to work on this, and also to give a new look at some of the data that was collected. And Mr. Duran will give you this look, this context and perspective that we applied several years after the original report was done. So, Jess?
Thank you, Mr. Ochoa. Chairman Najarian, members of the Housing Authority. As Mr. Ochoa mentioned, in July, the Housing Authority requested an update on the 2002 Youth Strategy Report and findings that was originally presented to the City Council or the Housing Authority in June of 2002. And Exhibit 1 of your report is a copy of that Council report. The report identified and presented in a brochure the City provided youth programs and services that were being offered at that time. It summarized the City's spending on youth programs and services at that time. It provided an assessment of youth needs in the community. It proposed appropriate roles for the City of Glendale in response to the needs that were identified. The report also proposed a youth development strategy with corresponding strategic directions. At that time, a youth strategy team was formed, comprised of Community Services and Parks, Library, Arts and Culture, the Community Development Department, and Police in order to assess the needs and to develop a youth strategy. The needs assessment process included 8 forums, discussions, and community surveys. Each assessment component was designed differently and targeted various subsets of the Glendale community, including input from youth, parents, business owners, community residents, school representatives, law enforcement, community-based, faith-based, and health-oriented organizations. Youth issues that were identified were grouped into 14 categories, including adult involvement with youth, after-school alternative enrichment, character development, communication, coordination, cultural understanding, daycare, economic assistance, facilities, healthcare, jobs and job readiness, respecting and involving youth, strengthening families, and lastly, transportation. Based on this input, the youth strategy team identified the following strategies to address youth needs. One was to enhance the city's capacity to coordinate, facilitate, and fund a comprehensive system of programs and services that address the needs of youth and their families. 2 was to initiate a community-wide youth master planning process that incorporates the tenets of youth development, including youth in decision-making and in measuring outcomes. The 3rd strategic direction was to strengthen existing and develop new partnerships to maximize the efficient and effective delivery of services to youth and their families. The 4th was to develop and maintain a centralized information, communication, and referral system to connect youth and their families to available programs and services offered by the city as well as community service providers. Number 5 was to develop additional facilities that serve the needs of youth and their families. 6 was to strengthen the capacity of programs and services to enhance educational outcomes and character development, and incorporate and promote the values of cultural understanding and respect for youth. And lastly, to expand programs and services that address the following critical areas of need: enrichment and recreational activities during non-school hours, strong families, jobs and job readiness, and community safety and domestic violence. What we can report to you today is that since 2002, the city has developed and implemented programs and services and capital projects that are consistent with and do address many of the recommended strategic directions from the 2002 report, including the need for more facilities, better communication and coordination of programs and services, more after-school opportunities and daycare options during school breaks, such as day camps, more job opportunities and training through the GYA program, for example, more programs to build character, strengthen families, and teach respect, assistance for low-income families by funding and partnering with nonprofit organizations that offer programs and services to help low-income families. Most notably, what the city did was to form a Youth and Family Services section within the Community Services and Parks Department, which now operates out of the Pacific Community Center. This section provides outreach, information, and referral services and case management to at-risk youth and their families. We currently serve an average of 175 youth and their families annually. This section currently serves as the city's centralized information, communication, and referral system to connect youth and their families to available programs offered by the city and other community service providers. The Library, Arts, and Culture Department, since 2002, expanded storytime programs for different age and language groups, various reading programs, playtimes with Lego bricks and trains, 3 different crafts programs, a bookmark contest, a teen advisory group, which are all run out of different library locations. The city and the Library, Arts, and Culture Department also established computer labs at most of our community centers and libraries. There are also programs like Camp Rosie, which you are familiar with, STAR, Students Training as Role Models, and GYA, all geared towards personal development and enrichment, team building, life skills, self-defense, educational development, job opportunities, and increased recreational opportunities. The city has used capital improvements in a significant way as a means to address youth needs. Since 2002, the city has invested over $67 million in capital projects to benefit youth and families. That would include 9 new and renovated, that would include 9 new construction projects and 10 renovation projects of existing parks, community centers, libraries, or other facilities that serve youth. Examples include the Pacific Park Community Center, the Pacific Pool, Glendale Heritage Garden, which was a teen center for a couple of years, the Verdugo Skate Park, the Adult Recreation Center, where we are now expanding the use of that center to not only seniors but youth as well. Cerritos Park, Adams Square Mini Park, Adams Square Library, Griffith Manor Park and Community Center, Maple Park Community Center, Sports Complex, Artificial Turf, as examples of some of those projects. And again, that totaled an investment of $67.5 million for youth facilities that benefit youth.
And that's an important part of this story, because at $4.8 million, which was the benchmark that was established as part of the 2002 report, and had been waived in front of this authority board, saying that the council is only spending 1% on youth, meaning 1% of the aggregate city budget. Well, what that didn't take into account, that 4.8 doesn't take into account any of those capital funds, yet you're comparing it to a full city budget, including capital budgets. And so when you put it in the true apples-to-apples comparison, the city is actually spending a great deal on youth and families, as manifest here. And so I think what we want to be able to show is, that relationship exists. But by the same token, the reason why the report states what it states is the report was looking to boost additional expenditures and investment in youth services.
In order to maximize the city resources and provide the most with existing dollars, the city does partner with nonprofit organizations provide efficient and effective services to youth and their families. And we must continue to do that, probably even more. The city has provided CDBG funds, as you all know, to nonprofit organizations for both capital improvements and programming to benefit youth. Since 2002, CDBG funds have helped develop 2 youth centers, one by Home and Edmond and the other by the Armenian Cultural Foundation. Currently, the city provides $134,000 in CDBG funds to fund 7 nonprofit organizations to operate youth programs and partners with nonprofit organizations to plan events at our community centers, such as the Glendale Health Festival at Pacific Community Center, partnership with Armenian American Medical Society, and the Kids Health Expo in partnership with Glendale Healthy Kids as 2 prime examples. As you also know, staff is currently working on an RFP, or we have an RFP out, with the goal to contract with a local nonprofit organization to offer youth programs and services out of Glendale Heritage Garden as a supplement to the city's efforts. Also, you're all very familiar with the Character and Ethics Project, which was formed around the same time as the 2002 Youth Strategy Report. And that project was and continues to be a community effort to help and encourage people from all walks of life to deal with one another with honesty and with a cooperative spirit. The Character and Ethics nonprofit organization sponsors workshops on youth leadership and provides recognition to adults in our community who, through their example, make our city a better place to live. They host an annual youth leadership conference. They host a Character and Ethics Community Awards, Athletes Character and Ethics Awards program, and encourage and educate with word by mouth. Currently, unfortunately, the reality is that with the economic downturn and the impact of the city to the city budget, the city currently would not have the resources to be able to expand any youth programs and services, and in fact, we are struggling to keep the current levels of service for youth social service programs. For example, the Bookmobile program, the Mobile Recreation Program, the PAL program, and the Youth and Family Services at-Risk Youth Case Management Program have all been scaled back in the last couple of years as a result of the budget. You also know that the CDBG program is one of the main funding mechanisms for youth programs, and it also has been cut. However, irrespective of the level of resources, we will continue to prioritize youth services in addition to other subpopulations that we have to be responsible to in our community, such as seniors and homeless. This concludes my update on the Youth Strategy Report, so I'm available to answer any questions that you might have.
I would just punctuate one thing that Mr. Duran had left off with, and I think it's really the harbinger of things to come and a vision for the future of our community services programming, and that's we talk about the use of volunteers, but I think oftentimes we think about it in terms of volunteers who sit at the front desk and answer phones, or volunteers who work at the records counter at PD, things like that, as opposed to mobilizing whole groups of volunteers through our nonprofit organizations. And so I think what you'll begin to see more and more is the leveraging of nonprofit organizations to operate our programs and being funded largely with local dollars as you see those CDBG dollars start to taper off. And this trend that we've seen for the last 10 years is going to continue with the feds. We believe that domestic spending will be curtailed, and so there will be a policy decision to be made by the council in the coming years whether or not to replace that funding with local dollars. And if we are going to use local dollars, the idea there is to try to wring as much productivity and effectiveness out of each one of those dollars, and we think that we can do that through investing in our local nonprofit community. We're beginning to have those discussions now, and council is, I'm sure you've had those types of discussions with groups that have approached you as part of your constituencies respectively. But I think that we will have to formalize that discussion in the spring and summer months heading into next year's budget.
Thank you. Mr. Ochoa, this was posted on the agenda, was it not?
Yes.
At any time after its posting, did you receive a request from any member of the public to delay this or put it over to another meeting due to their unavailability?
No, sir.
I know I did not. And the reason I brought this forward is we had been receiving criticisms by Mr. Milano about the funding and our unresponsiveness towards the youth needs. My request back in May was wholly made to ask staff to encapsulize and summarize the state of our youth services. And I'm very happy that Mr. Duran was able to do that. It's just disheartening that that essentially this meeting here today is held largely to respond to Mr. Milano's comments and criticisms and give him a chance as well to review and to make a comment and to have his input as well, whether it's criticism or otherwise. I'm just sorry that he's not here to go through the report and to make his comments. But from what I can see, that we have continued to make great strides in providing for our youth services in light of tight budget times. The capital expenditures are significant. Was that the $65 million, $67 million figure? We have, some crowns in our youth services jewel. We have some jewels in our youth services crown. I think the Pacific Park pool is one of them. I think the artificial turf at the sports complex and its continued emphasis on youth activities, as well as many of the other items and programs that you've listed. It's heartening to see that when we do have a slowdown in the budget and an inability for the city to continue to provide, that we do have private groups that step in, the AYSO, the Little Leaguers, the Homenet Men, and many, many more that step in with the help of the community. So as the city budget reaches its limit, the community many times steps in and helps with many of these programs through volunteers. I know Mr. Manukian is a volunteer AYSO coach, longtime volunteer. I had done it a few times as an assistant. But that's the nature of our community. So it's unfair to look only at the city hall, the four walls of City Hall and pinpoint says, what have you done? But it's only fair to evaluate the entire community input and the entire community involvement. And I think that is heartening. Groups like the YMCA, who have offered free youth memberships, if you will, for those who cannot afford. Groups such as the Chess Club, the Glendale Chess Club, which is producing Grand Masters at the youth division. This is something that I'm proud of, and I'm sure every one of us has an example to give as to how the community steps up to make this happen, despite limited municipal budgets. So I think that's great, and I think it's something we need to keep our eye on and continue. And this should be, I think, an annual report on an ongoing basis, since I think you've done the hard work to set up the framework of the report that we can have, or perhaps even more often if the next Housing Authority chair deems it necessary to keep a closer look at that. So, other comments? Mr. Quintero.
Yeah. Glendale Youth Alliance and the PAL program, two programs that have been involved with the city that are sort of quasi-city organizations, but in fact work independently. PAL with the police department, now the new partnership with the YMCA and the Glendale Youth Alliance. And those two programs are basically targeted at low-income, sometimes at-risk youth. PAL in particular is absolutely, most of the kids that are involved are kind of referrals from the police department and other city agencies. They've done a wonderful job throughout the years. We have helped financially, but they always have their own resources and on and on. I mean, our Parks and Recreation Department has worked with youth since I've come to the city of Glendale back in the 70s. So I think we're doing a good job. I'm glad that you gave us this report, Mr. Duran. I think it shows that you and your staff are very focused on youth services.
And if I may say, actually, PAL is for high-risk youth like me at one point in time. And I think you are doing a good job. However, I want to ask whether we have the funding and the plans to expand our soccer facilities, or talking about AYSO, or build new soccer facilities instead of renovating. I know we are going to be doing artificial turf on one of the fields, but do we have any plans for the next few years to expand facilities or create more soccer fields? Because I know during the AYSO season, at a minimum, we have extensive lack of soccer fields, for practice fields and for play fields. So,
At this point, sir, the bulk of our all of our expenditures is maintaining existing infrastructure. So the short answer is no.
okay.
Hadn't we talked at one point about a joint soccer field project with the school district at Pacific Park? This may have been before you were back on council, but there was
No,
some discussion with another location, then we had sort of shifted to Pacific Park.
We're going to do the artificial field at Pacific Park, if I'm not mistaken. That's the one I was
That's when
referring to.
but there was talk about a new
Columbus.
field,
Well,
Columbus.
Columbus didn't
which-
work out,
yeah,
apparently. There was a lot of issues.
Which didn't work out. I thought there was
Because of the
another.
neighbors.
Right.
Well, you had there at Columbus, but I can tell you that in talking with the school district, as budgets start to reemerge, hopefully, and not just capital, but especially park maintenance budgets begin to grow a little bit healthier. We have had the discussions with GUSD about opening their school sites, which there are many, to do playing fields and neighborhood programming. I think the hang-up would be whether or not you light those, and I think council saw that with I think it was Columbus, is what you said. But there is a discussion to be had, but the school district's attitude, I think, has been reasonably so. We can't open up the site unless it can be maintained. And so we're all kind of, I think, waiting for that to return.
Chairman, if I may add, while we have no concrete plans for a soccer field or project designated, it is one of our goals. It is one of my personal goals. We are currently looking at the feasibility of converting, I think it's baseball diamond 3 up at the sports complex, to an artificial turf, so that we can have, it could be a dual purpose field. It could serve as a baseball field in addition to a soccer field, because I think the demand for soccer is higher than it is for baseball.
Easy.
Don't say it.
I said I think. So we're looking at that, and we would have enterprise funds available to be able to fund that. So we may be coming to you probably as part of the 13-14 budget process with that proposal. So we're working on that. We also plan to use enterprise funds to replace the 2 existing artificial turfs at the sports complex, because they are nearing their lifespan.
Make sure you do it off-season.
It'll definitely be coordinated.
All right.
But yeah, I get a lot of pressure within the department on what's the best time to do things at the sports complex, so we certainly will.
I'll move the item if there are no other comments.
Second.
Hey, roll call, please.
Authority members Friedman.
Yes.
Menuchyan.
Yes.
Mincy.
Yes.
Parazian.
Yes.
Weaver.
Aye.
Quintero.
Yes.
Chair Najarian.
Yes. Are there any comments?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Menuchyan?
Yes, talking about AYSO, I received an email from Commissioner of our local AYSO, Aldo Mastroni, and he asked me to actually pass this message on to the community. And I'm going to be reading his email, which I think is really important.
Excuse me, who was this from?
From the Commissioner, AYSO Commissioner, the local Commissioner, Aldo Mastroni.
Thank you.
And he says, all of us have been touched and saddened by the tragic events that took place in Newtown, Connecticut last Friday. AYSO Region 88 has reached out and has been in contact with the Commissioner for Region 79. where some of the young victims played AYSO soccer as well. We, as Region 88, advised them that in an effort to show our support and our sympathy, we have created a banner to send them later this week. And Region 88 wants you, your children, your neighbors, basically every member of our community to sign it. The banner will be at Once Upon a Time bookstore located at 2207 Honolulu Avenue, Montrose, through Thursday night. I would think that the banner is going to Region 79 on Friday. They will be open every day. That's the bookstore, Once Upon a Time bookstore. They will be open every day this week from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. He says, let's all show our support and in our own way help with the healing process by signing the banner. These are his words, and I will follow with my own. I know that there are thousands of families who have participated in the Region 88 AYSO Youth Development Soccer Program. This is a call to all to step up and make a statement by signing this banner in their support. And again, the banner will be at Once Upon a Time bookstore located at 2207 Honolulu Avenue, Montrose, through Thursday night. And it's open 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. And this next statement has nothing to do with AYSO or soccer. It is my request, and this is an issue that I dealt with back in 2006, and I think it's time for us to deal with it again. I would like to request that we again revisit the issue of sales of guns within 1,000 feet around our schools and expand this protection to our college. And I would like to request from my colleagues to place this on the council agenda if possible. If it's not possible for me to do this today, I will repeat it at our next, the joint meeting. But this is such an important issue at this point that I feel that this is the right venue for me to bring this up. So, thank you.
You will need to bring it up at the next council meeting. We'll agendize it immediately thereafter.
No, I won't agendize it. No, just kidding. It is. I will bring it up. It is an issue, like I said, that I dealt with back in 2006, and I know that currently the law protects K through 12 schools with banning of sale of guns or having gun shows within 1,000 feet around schools. And I think it's time that we, like I said, expand this protection to our college as well. So I will make that request at the next meeting, and I hope that at least one of my colleagues will support me. Thank you.
Any other comments?
I just wanted to clarify there is a meeting on January 8th for the Housing Authority. On the preliminary agenda, it doesn't show anything, but that's just because there was no business item. But there will be a meeting.
It's a joint meeting,
There is a joint meeting, but there's also a regular Housing Authority meeting.
so I can bring this item up at the joint meeting because it's a joint meeting of the City Council as well as the housing.
Well, usually we bring it up to the regular, it's a successor agency meeting for special business only, so you'll have to bring it up on the 15th. And I'm not sure. I think Mr. Ochoa indicated we could bring it back on it,
We would bring it back the immediate following next week if that's the council's pleasure.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, since we won't see each other until next year.
On a lighter note, yes. Thank you,
Much
Mr.
lighter
Mincy.
note. And in fact, I've thought of that, what happened back in Connecticut at Christmas time of all times. But I want to wish also those that are watching, watch us every week, that you will have a Happy New Year also.
Thank you. Any other comments? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We're adjourned.